Imagine not being able to read the paper because your hands were shaking. Imagine not being able to read newsprint as your world faded to black. The National Federation of the Blind, Newsline, Indiana. Monthly Report. With your host, Lee Martin, and co-host, Florence Myers McSwine.
Welcome to the National Federation of the Blind, NFB Newsline, Indiana Monthly Report. Well, I want to thank you guys for joining us again this week. As you know, we have a great service that's provided by the National Federation of the Blind, and it's called NFB Newsline. It allows individuals that are blind, visually impaired, or print challenged, those with shaky hand syndromes, dyslexia, or challenged with any forms of print, can have this service. It's a free service through the National Federation of the Blind, and it's sponsored by the Talking Book and Braille Library Services here in the state of Indiana, as well as our state legislature. So it is a free service. It allows citizens to read the newspapers, magazines, TV guide listings, circulars. You can also read your Target circular and your Walmart circular, and those that are looking for jobs to help curb the 70% unemployment rate in the blind community can now have access with job listings. So there's a plethora of avenues that you can use this service on. One of them is the landline phone, and most of our seniors enjoy using the landline phone, as well as more and more are using the smartphones, such as the Apple and Android. We do have an app on the Apple phone with NFB Newsline. So you can sign up for the service. If you listen to the commercials, all the information is there. But you can go to nfbnewsline-in.org and find more about Newsline Indiana services. In Indiana, we have 14 publications, as well as the Indianapolis Business Journal. I enjoy reading the Indianapolis Star, is one of my favorites. And there's Evansville, Lafayette, Muncie, Indiana, Richmond, Indiana, Hammond, South Bend. There's so many, and the lower part of Chicago that you can read just from the Indiana publication. But as we say, we have 400 publications in the continent United States, and then we have 15 international newspapers that you can reuse. And then we have breaking news, which is like the BBC, the CNN, the Huffington Post, and a plethora of others there as well. So we want you to, learn more about the services. While you're watching our show, those that are sighted, grab your pens and papers, and those that are blind, you can grab your slate and stylus, your Perkins Braille, your computer, your recorders, and just record the information that we give during our commercials. So we'll be right back with our guest, Elder Enrique Aline, as well as co-host Florence Myers McSwine. We have a great topic today dealing with blindness and in the ministry. So we'll be right back on our next segment. Stay tuned.
Thousands of Indiana residents feel isolated from the world due to vision problems. Thanks to the National Federation of the Blind, visually impaired Hoosiers can hear newspapers, circulars, and magazines from across the globe.
I'm a Vietnam veteran. I'm blind. I read Stars and Stripes on NFB Newsline.
Learn more by calling 855-963-6476 or visit nfbnewsline-in.org.
Subscribe free to NFB Newsline.
We are the nation's blind, and we read NFB Newsline.
As I travel the nation, I read NFB Newsline.
I live in Valparaiso, Indiana, and I listen to my local news on NFB Newsline.
As a student, I enjoy reading current events on NFB Newsline.
Learn more by calling 855-963-6476 or visit nfbnewsline-in.org.
Subscribe free to NFB Newsline today.
Welcome back to NFB Newsline, Indiana. We have our guest here, Elder Enrique Alain. Welcome to the show.
Well, thank you very much, Florence, for you guys inviting me here. Well, thank you.
You're more than welcome. Where do you minister at?
I'm one of the pastors at New Covenant Christian Life Center over at 4201 West 30th Street in Indianapolis. The senior pastor is Elder Eugene Simmons. I've been there for going on almost 10 years now, I believe. It's about 10 years. Yes.
Okay. And you know, we're going to talk a little bit more about your ministries and how you got involved in that as a blind citizen, and some of the perceptions and misperceptions and some of the things that you have to deal with and teach people and guide people to the path to heaven with being a blind man as well. All right. So you use a service. You use the National Federation of the Blind Newsline. Tell me, how does that impact your life in your business life and your personal life?
It's been a tremendous impact for me. You know, when I started using it, it was sort of when I started reading books. I'm originally from Panama in Central America, and growing up, the books that were available were in the library. We couldn't borrow the books out of the library, the Braille books that were available to me. And when I moved to this country, to New York City, and had the opportunity to sign up with the library for the National Library for the Blind, and was able to read books. It was a complete game changer for me. Being able to read, I just read voraciously. I read all sorts of things. I mean, I even found myself one time reading a book about how toilets came about. You know, and when that happened, I was like, wait a minute, what am I doing? And here it is, so many years later, and I get the opportunity to sign up with Newsline, NFB Newsline, and the same thing. Not as extreme, I'm a little more mature now, but it was the same type of feeling I had, because now no longer do I needed to wait 2 weeks, maybe a month for magazines, newspapers to be published on tapes or in a media that I could access, but they were happening like then. I was so excited when I figured out that the Indianapolis Star, I could read articles on the Indianapolis Star, let's say 6 o'clock in the afternoon, and 8 o'clock there are new articles. I get in the same articles at the same time everyone else is getting. And that was really exciting for me on a personal level. On a professional level, it was really helpful because it also allowed me to participate in discussions with my colleagues with developments that came about in the information technology industry. Now, a lot of that information is delayed. In other words, it may come out today, but it really doesn't have an impact till later on. but sometimes it helps one's credibility. You know, if it came out today and you were able to just comment to somebody on your team, did you see such and such that they announced today? You know, so it's a tremendous service. It's a tremendous service, long overdue.
Well, I do not have to really extend this question to you, but would you recommend that service to other individuals that qualify for the services?
Absolutely.
So I am so, you know, you energize me just to talk about it, because I truly enjoy the service myself. And now, in your conversation, you mentioned your blindness. Now, have you been blind the majority of your life, all your life, or, you know, you can share that with us?
Yeah, I've been blind at the age of 11, I believe it was. 10 or 11, I was declared legally blind. And I've lost my sight over time. Today, 40 years later, put down your calculators, I have lost almost 99% of my vision. So it's a progressive over the years. It's a genetic disease. It's not an illness that came about or an accident. It's in the genes, you know. But it was.
So you've overcome that, and, you know, once again, you know, you exemplify that, you know, reading is still, you know, fundamental in our country or in our world. And, you know, you're into technology. There's so much to read on Newsline, NFB Newsline, about technology. Yes. You can even, you know, read about technology as it's being developed or in the beta stages. From China, we have China, Jerusalem, have a number of publications from overseas that people can access that information from. And that's just a great tool. Now, Florence, you lost your sight. You've been dealing with sight complications for the majority of your life too, right?
Majority of my life, I was actually born with a condition called retinitis pigmentosa, which affects your retina. And I was diagnosed at the age of 3, and it too is a progressive eye condition, and it sounds pretty similar to the condition that Elder Enrique has.
Now, does that, I know yours impacts the majority of your family. What about you, Elder? Does yours impact the majority of members in your family?
No. Based on research, it tends to skip a generation, although in my family, apparently it didn't know that. So my sister, my older sister has the disease, the problem, and her son has it, but none of the grandchildren have it. It is, the disease is known as cone rod dystrophy. And it's the only thing that can predict about it is that you will lose sight. That's about it. They can't tell how much, how long, and who really is going to be affected by it. They're just really guessing about it in most instances.
And for you, Florence, how's that impacted your family then?
Now, my family is pretty prominent in our family. It basically is in all generations of our family. And as far as the impact, basically because we know that the condition exists and that we may or may not have that condition, we have learned basically that it may not sound right when I say this, but it is what it is. I personally have adopted the attitude that it could be worse, you know, because I once complained I had no shoes until I met a man who had no feet. So I'm okay with this.
Yeah. You know, so much discussion needs to go into this conversation. And, you know, we'll talk a little bit more about it once we come from break. But, you know, progressive eye disease, you know, someone today, some family today may be watching the program, or you may know of a family that's dealing with sight loss. You can have them contact us with our numbers that run across the screen, or they can go to nfb-in.org. That's nfb-in.org to our website, and that'll direct you to a lot of resources and agencies, as well as going to the National Federation of the Blind Newsline State Information Channel, where a lot of resources are there. So we'll come back and talk about more of how to deal with sight loss, how to deal with basically life, being a blind citizen with faith and ministry. So we'll be right back here in a few minutes. Stick with us. We'll be back with Mr. Elder Enrique Aline and co-host Florence Myers Mitzlife.
If you or someone you know is visually impaired or print challenged, the National Federation of the Blind has a resource you need.
I am a CFP practitioner, and I happen to be blind. I rely on NFB Newsline to keep me current with Wall Street Journal and the Financial Times.
Hoosiers can hear Indiana magazines, circulars, national magazines, and information from across the globe. Learn more by calling 855-963-6476 or visit nfbnewsline-in.org.
I'm Danny Wayne Beamer, Program Manager of the Elder Blind Program at the Will Center in Terre Haute, Indiana. I introduced the NFB Newsline to seniors in 13 southwestern counties in Indiana. I also utilize the NFB Newsline for my radio station public affairs shows. The NFB Newsline. Experience it today.
Learn more by calling 855-963-6476 or visit nfbnewsline-in.org.
We are the nation's blind, and we read NFB Newsline.
I want to welcome you back to the National Federation of the Blind Newsline Indiana Monthly Report. And we're here today with our guest, a very astute elder, Enrique Aline. So, Enrique.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So, how did you get involved into the ministry?
Well, I got involved in the ministry because I know saying, well, the Lord led me to it. It's kind of, but He did, and that's the way He does it with everybody. Mm-hmm. You know, things just happened in my life that brought me closer and closer to God, and I just felt that urge, that feeling, that calling, mm-hmm. as we say, to be the instrument that God uses to share His word, and I can't pinpoint exactly when it happened, but I can tell you that when I realized it was happening, I fought it. Mm-hmm. I fought it for many years. Mm-hmm. I fought it for many years, and you know, I lost that battle, and it's a defeat that I celebrate at this point. You know, it's a different because it has really changed my life.
Now, as a blind person going into the ministry, what problems or complications that you encounter?
Well, there were two things. First, let me talk about the practical part of it, and that is reading the Bible. There are two ways that one can go about it. Well, there's the Bible, audio Bible, recorded Bible, which sometimes make it difficult. In fact, does make it very difficult for you to jump from chapter to chapter, verse to verse, as you need to. One way to get around that is to have someone else read it. The other one is you read it yourself with large print or with Braille. The issue I ran into that with on that is because it takes up a lot of space, a lot of volumes. The third alternative is digital. And that works pretty well for me because using a laptop or some sort of electronic device, that would allow me to jump from place to place. Now, that's the practical aspect of it, and it's pretty easy to get around. The other aspect is the issue of credibility. Now, as blind persons, you do know that blindness is one of the things Americans and people in general fear the most. And as such, they don't understand how you can function as a blind person, and even worse, as a Christian, how can you lead them spiritually when you are not as blessed as they are? You know,
as they think.
Exactly. So that was an issue to overcome, and I did it in a surreptitious way, I guess would be the word to use. And let me know. People say I use big words. And,
well, that's a good word. That's a good one.
But so basically, it's because I heard so many people come up to me and say, "You're an inspiration," and bam, that's the way in, you know, to share.
It is.
I'm an inspiration only because God is using me, because God, that's God's plan. You know, in John chapter 9, Jesus' disciples asked him, when they came across the blind man, "Rabbi, who sinned that this man is blind, he or his parents?" Jesus said, "Neither he or his parents sinned. He is blind for the glory of God."
That's right.
You know, and that's a powerful statement right there. God uses us, regardless of our condition, physical, mental, for the glory, for his glory, for his building of his kingdom. How can you love God if you don't love his own creations? And we all his creations. We all are flawed. Now, the one of the things to keep in mind here is that we are in the image of God. And because we are in the image of God, we're not perfect, right? The only thing that's perfect is the original, right? When you're an image, you're a chip off the old block, but you're not the block. So we are all flawed. We are all blessed in one way or another. Amen? We all have difficulties coping with situations. And regardless of how blessed you feel you are, other people are blessed differently than you are. And as a blind person, when somebody comes up to me and say I'm an inspiration to them, that's how I use the blessing that God have laid on me to try and help them to find why that is. You know, why that is. It's not anything I've done. You know, it's that God is working through me, just as he works through everybody.
That's it. Yeah.
I tell you what, if that doesn't inspire you, there is not too much to move you. But you know, I know your challenges, and I know that there's more that we would want to talk about. Dealing with challenges, dealing with the church, but dealing with Christians. But you also serve a lot in the Hispanic community as well. And you know, if you want to give the name of your church and where people can go and be inspired with this ministry, would you please give that again?
Yes, the name of the church, I'm an assistant pastor at New Covenant Christian Life Center at 4201 West 30th Street in Indianapolis. Now, that is the English congregation. We do have a Spanish congregation I also work with and help pastor. The senior pastor there, his name is Antonio Mireles. Así que si usted está oyendo este programa, la iglesia se llama Vino Nuevo en el 4201 de la West 30 in Indianapolis.
Well, I understood all of that, and we'll be going to break. And please visit with the elder Enrique Alain, and we'll be right back.
I am a blind vendor, and one of the things that I truly miss is reading Vending Times magazine.
Hoosiers can hear Indiana magazines, circulars, national magazines, and information from across the globe. Learn more by calling 855-963-6476 or visit nfbnewsline-in.org.
It is a fantastic service.
Subscribe free to NFB Newsline today.
The National Federation of the Blind knows that blindness is not the characteristic that defines you or your future. Every day we raise the expectations of blind people because low expectations create obstacles between blind people and our dreams. You can live the life you want. Blindness is not what holds you back.
And thank you for coming in with us for this show. I'm Elder Enrique Alain, man of God in the dark, but walking in the light of God's Word.
Amen.
And so join us next week on the National Federation of the Blind Newsline Indiana Report. We'll see you then.
The National Federation of the Blind Indiana Monthly Report. For more information, go to nfb-in.org or call 317-205-9226. That's 317-205-9226. The National Federation of the Blind encourages you to live the life you want.